Time to do an install on this NC700X. This is the manual transmission, but I don't think it makes much of a difference. Total tools needed to mount the Cobrra Nemo 2 on the NC700 are an 8 and a 7mm wrench and a razor blade to cut your, or some pliers or something, just to cut the zip ties. That's it. This is what you get when you open up your Cobrra Nemo 2. Little instruction manual, tubing and some zip ties. The actual unit, which is a very fine crafted piece. Very precise, looks great. The applicator holder. The flexibility of placement of these Cobrra Nemos is one of the things we like so much about them. I used an 8mm to loosen this up so I can adjust that. And on the DCT, I end up putting it right over here, but on this one I can put it over here. So I've just straightened that up. Now you need to be able to close it all the way. This is closed all the way, so if it fits at that position, it'll fit when you install it. But check this also. So I'm only going to loosen or take out the top one and stick it on. Now depending on your setup, you may want to run the tube in there to that little red thing, which by the way, if you need to take it out, you just depress it evenly on both sides and the tube will pop right out. That locks it on. But you may want to put it on first if you're not going to have a lot of space when you get your thing locked into position. Now you can see I've turned mine so that it's mostly in line with all the equipment that's right here. It doesn't take up almost any space and it requires no other adapters. Some bikes you do need another adapter, and Cobrra makes one. It's fairly affordable and really nice that you can make mount to pretty much anything else. And they make an extended arm right here, so if it's too tight because you got too much stuff here, you just need a little bit more length, get the longer one. We have those. And that's it. So I'm going to hook my tubing in and then tighten this down when I've got it right where I want it. So hope you can see the little teeth that grab it. You're going to push it in there till it clicks in, this tubing, and then it'll grab. If you have a problem, you ever need to get it out, you just depress evenly around the tube and it'll come out. You'll feel an initial click, then push it a little bit more and it'll slide in. But once you've got that, it is really difficult to get this out without depressing that. That's what keeps it in and keeps oil from making a mess all over the place. Now I can put it back on here. Where possible, I use the route that other Honda wires are going and pull it through those. But you have zip ties if you can't make that happen. The other thing you want to be aware of when you're routing it is to keep the tubing away from the hottest parts of the engine or the muffler, because that could be disastrous. So I'm going to run mine roughly through here and get it down here to my swing. Okay, now on this bike with a lot of plastics, I haven't had to take off anything. Running the line down. I don't know if you can see it down there, but it's running down to here. Then I tucked it right up here. This has a little bit of give. I zip tied it there. Ran it back here, keeping it away from the chain and the shock, anything that moves. And then I've got it zip tied to this little thing. There's still flexibility in there. I want it to be able to move with the swing arm. Okay, then the applicator, you can tighten that down easily with a 7mm wrench. The line should run through like this and then point where you want it to go. Now I make the end of mine rub up against right there, so I'm going to make it long enough that it actually goes over there. And I always leave extra line, and I don't trim this until I have this all in there. There's a small zip tie that's going to go there. That's going to keep that thing where it is. Don't worry about this angle. If you make it long enough so that it presses against the sprocket, it'll actually wear down to a nice angle that allows it to apply perfectly. And I like mine right in between the chain and the sprocket against the sprocket. And then I've zip tied it in a few different places and put the applicator there, and you can see how I've got it. Pressure is holding this here, it's going to wear down and fall right into that groove. That's tightened down on the back. My little zip ties are, I can move them out of the way so you don't even see them. But from a distance, you'll never even know that I have this thing on here. And you could actually run it in a way, if you didn't want to see any zip ties, you could run it, on this bike, you could run it through here and out the back. But it's just really easy to mount. And total time, not knowing this bike, to put this on, total time something like probably 20 minutes if you're not dinking around too much. Now, I didn't mention these little tubing holders. They're just little aluminum ones. The idea of them is really good. They're flexible. You put your tube in there. You can use them underneath or on the inside, wherever you're going to run your line and you want it to be out of the way. I used only the zip ties because I found that this double-sided tape is really weak. And if you don't have that thing super clean underneath there, which is hard to do if there's been a bunch of oil from the chain flung on there for several years, this thing will come off and the tape's just not strong enough. So if I was going to use these, I would put some like DuPont double-sided tape on there that really holds. Take this one off and put some new ones on. But they're a nice idea too. You just don't need them though. With the zip ties, they actually hold the line in place really, really well. And I think they make it unnecessary to use these.